Hey everyone, this is Amiralal, your informative real estate agent. Welcome to my channel. I'm here today to talk about the buying process. I've got 10 steps for you, so stick around. I'll try to make them quick, but I want you to know every single step and as much information about that buying process. I know it's overwhelming, but I'm here to help, so stick around. All right, let's get right into it. Step number 1 is your what and your why. You need to figure out why you want to purchase a home. Purchasing a home is probably the biggest transaction you're ever going to make in your entire life. And the why needs to be important. Buying that first home is an amazing step, but knowing why is really important. Your why may be because you've lived with your parents for the past 10 years and want to be able to own your own property, or even just gain some equity. Or maybe you want to buy something to rent it out so that you can gain some passive income on the side. So figure out that why. Now, the other is the what. You want to figure out what you want to purchase. Do you want to start with just a condo, gain some equity, resell it in a year, and then go ahead and buy what you want? Or start off with your dream home? Are you going to buy a duplex maybe, and then be able to rent out one side of the house and then you live in the other? Then that income may be paying for part of your mortgage. There's so many types of homes that you can purchase. So figuring out what you want as your first property or even as your second property is really important. You really want to be clear on these two because this is what's going to drive you to get you a home in today's market. All right, you have figured out the hardest part of this entire process. Now, step number 2 is the pre-approval. You need to get a mortgage pre-approval. That is the most important part of this step because we want to know exactly what your budget is. You don't want to go out and start looking at homes, find a home at about $700,000, fall in love with it, and then go talk to a bank or a mortgage agent and find out that you're approved for $600,000. Now you've just fallen in love with a home that you can't purchase. And now every other home that you look at that is under that value is probably not going to feel the same. You don't want to ruin this process by looking at something that is over your budget. Getting that pre-approval eliminates that step. So the way a pre-approval works is you can either go to the bank or go to a mortgage agent. I always suggest a mortgage agent because that mortgage agent kind of has access to multiple lenders, while the bank can see only their numbers and their interest rates and their amounts. So I always suggest to go to a mortgage agent. So let's say you go to a mortgage agent. Basically, they're going to ask you for documentation. They're going to ask you for your T4. They're going to ask you for your pay stubs. They're going to ask for an employment letter, and they're going to ask for your credit report. After you send all of that information to them, they may ask for additional documentation as well. But after you send that to them, they can look over your income and all of that amount. They'll do a stress test qualification amount, and then they will be able to tell you what your maximum amount that you can purchase is. That's great information because then you know what is the most amount of money you can spend on that property that you're about to purchase. My biggest tip is to not spend that maximum amount. And now we're going to go to step number 3 because that is where I'm going to explain that to you. Step number 3 is figuring out your limit. Just because you have been pre-approved for $800,000 does not mean you spend $800,000 on a property. That means you're going to be at your max amount that you can afford. This is not including utilities. This is not including your phone bill, your internet. This is not including your everyday expenses, groceries, all of that stuff. This is just what you are pre-approved for. Also, if you're going to stretch yourself to the max, that may make it super stressful to pay your mortgage payments. You don't want to do that. Number 2 is this is just a pre-approval. That means you're just approved by paperwork that you can afford an $800,000 home. I always say leave some leeway because for some reason, let's say the taxes are higher than we assumed, or you decide to buy a property that's a condo townhouse that now has maintenance fees. That's going to change your pre-approval. So if we've bought something at $800,000, you may not get fully approved for it because those changes make a difference. I always say to leave about $30,000 of wiggle room because if there are additional charges added to the home, you have that space to be approved for your mortgage fully with that amount. You really want to figure out what that maximum limit is and don't go over it. I know today's market is insane and homes are being sold way over asking price, but I'm going to explain that to you shortly as well. But if you start moving around in your budget, you're going to make things more difficult for yourself. So figuring out those numbers right at the beginning is the best thing you can do for yourself. All right, let's jump into step number 4, location. You need to figure out what city or what area you want to purchase a home. If you have stretched yourself out from Hamilton to Barrie to Oshawa, I totally have clients that have done that before. It just makes the process really, really difficult. I know inventory is super low, but you kind of have to be a little patient in today's market. Inventory is low, but as soon as a property comes up on the market, that is when we jump on it. That is when we go look at it. That is when we figure out if this is a property for you. But finding out that location, keeping it small, knowing exactly how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what type of home that you want, maybe a condo townhouse, maybe a condo, maybe a 3-bedroom, 4-bathroom detached home. All of that stuff is really important. And then narrowing down the location is super important so that you're not trying to just go anywhere in Ontario. You know what I mean? Stick to a location, figure that out, and then we jump to number 5, which is figuring out your real estate agent. All right, let me jump into number 5 because we're going to mix them together. Number 5 is finding your real estate agent. Now, finding a real estate agent in today's market is really easy. They're everywhere. Literally every person has a relative or a family friend that's a real estate agent. But you want to find the best person for you. There are some agents that are out there that just care about getting a sale. And then there are agents out there that care about the process for you. Figure out what is the most important to you. Go to your friends and family. Ask them who they've used during their process of purchasing or selling. Ask them why they like this person or they didn't like this person. Okay? Literally find 2 or 3 real estate agents and now talk to all of them. Basically, interview them. Figure out who is best for you, who fits for you, and who is going to do everything they can for you. Because you are the most important person in this process. Finding you the home that fits your criteria, someone that's not going to push you past your limits, is super important. And it's in today's market, with everything selling above asking, that budget is the most important thing for yourself, and you need to find someone that's not going to try to get you to go past that. So really interview somebody, make sure that they are they treat you exactly how you want to be treated. Okay, because you are the most important person in this process. Also, if you're unsure about any of the first 4 points, like what location you want to purchase in or how much your limit should be, ask your agent. Your agent is the expert in their area, okay? They should have the best information for you, and that is the best person to ask these questions to. So if you're just unsure, go to them. They should be able to help you with every single one of these steps. All right, step number 6 is my favorite. It is viewing properties. This is the fun part. We're going to go shopping. All right, so as soon as you figured out location, what type of property you're looking for, your real estate agent, that agent should set you up on an auto email list. That auto email list is super important because what it does is as soon as a property pops up on the market, it sends an email to you. So you are the first person to know when a property comes up on the market. And with today's market, it's the best to be informed right off the bat, to be one of the first people to know that this property is on the market. What I do for my clients is as soon as they found a property that they like that is on my email list, I ask them to send me the address. Because in today's market, the listing price doesn't really mean anything right now. A property could be listed at $499,900, but actually be worth $700,000. So what I do is when you send me that address, I look into what is recently sold on that street or in that area. That is the best information because it tells us what the actual market value of that home is. So let's say you're pre-approved for 700,000 and I look into the property and the property is actual market value is 800,000. There may not even be a point to go view it or even go through that process. Because at the end of the day, you probably won't be able to purchase that property, especially with how many offers are probably going in on it. So instead, we'll just look at properties in your budget. What I usually do is I also set you up on an email list that is a bit lower than your actual limit. So let's say you tell me I only want to look at maximum 700,000. Your email list is going to be set up for 650 because I don't want you looking at homes at 700,000 when the listing price doesn't mean anything. And now you're falling in love with homes that are priced outside your budget because they're going to sell for 800 or 900,000. We don't want to put you in that situation. So I always set it up a little bit lower than the actual budget so that you are looking at homes that you actually can afford. Also, in this viewing home process, you want to look at as many homes as possible because you might think you love a home that's a bungalow. And then you walk into it and you've seen 6 or 7 bungalows and you're starting to realize that that's not the type of home that you want. This process, take your time. Really find something that you enjoy, that you can see yourself living in. When you walk into a home, you want to be able to picture where things are going to go. You want to be able to feel yourself living in this home. And if you can't feel that, then there's no point in even putting in an offer or trying to gain it. Yes, inventory is low and there aren't a lot of options, but it's better to take your time and get something that you can physically see yourself living in than getting something, moving into it, and not really enjoying living there. And then having to go through this process all over again, maybe a year later. So make sure that you take your time. This is, like I said, one of the biggest transactions you're ever going to make in your entire life. So slow down. All right, step number 7. You just found the property that you loved. So we decide to put in an offer. Number 1, you want to try to find an agent and a mortgage agent that kind of work together. Because in today's market, it is very hard to put an offer on a property with conditions. So the 2 conditions would be your inspection condition and your financing condition. Let's start talking about the financing condition first. Now you've got a pre-approval, but this is why I ask you to leave that $30,000 wiggle room. There could be a situation where an appraisal is always done when you purchase a property. Someone from the bank goes and checks your house and makes sure that the amount you paid for that home is how much they will allow you to lend. So sometimes the appraisal comes back low. So let's say we put in an offer, we put it in at $800,000, but the banks think that it's worth $750,000. Now that extra difference of $50,000 comes out of your pocket. So you want to have a really good real estate agent and a really good mortgage agent that can tell you that you can go firm on a property. And the mortgage agent will go over how the appraisal is done. And in the past 4 months, I believe, there has not been any appraisals that have come back low. So because of how fast the market is rising, the amounts that people are paying are getting approved by lenders. I would never say don't worry about that because that is something to think about, but think about your finances, think about what you're able to do. Also look at what is recently sold in the area, because if something is sold for 1.1 and you're putting in an offer at 1.1, then there's not really a worry because they're going to look at properties that have sold recently compared to what you just bought it for. So that helps it when it comes to the appraisal. Now your inspection. Again, like I said, you can't really put in conditions when it comes to today's market. So we get an inspection done prior to, or me as an agent can speak to the seller's agent and find out if they've already done one. Because if they've already done one, they can send me that documentation and now we can look at it to see if there's anything that worries us, or have an inspector look at it for us and then tell us if there's anything that's worrisome. Or like I said, we get an inspection done before we even put in that offer to make sure that everything's fine with the home. All right, step number 8 is your mortgage and your inspection and your status certificate if it's a condo. So let's say you did put in those conditions. We have 5 business days for the mortgage to be approved fully. We have 5 business days to complete an inspection. And we have 10 business days for them to send us the status certificate and 2 days for our lawyer to review the status certificate. These conditions can be backed out of right away with no issue. So let's say in the inspection that is completed, we find out that there's mold in the roof. We want to be able to not take that on. Maybe I'll speak to the seller's agent, see if they can give us a reduction on the purchase price, because now there's something that's going to cost us about $10,000 that we don't want to pay for. They may accept it, but they may not. If they don't, then this is where you figure out if you want to step away from this property and go back to looking, or if we want to still move forward and it's not going to be an issue for you. Don't be scared to step away from this offer. Don't be scared to let go of this house, because something better may show up. But with today's market, like I've stated, properties are not being put in with conditions because sellers don't want to take the risk of someone backing out of their property. With properties falling off the market every single day and 10 to 12 offers being submitted on every single property, they know there's offers in there that don't have conditions. So if we put in an offer with a condition, we may just be overlooked. So just keep that in mind. So if you didn't put any conditions in this property, then that property is yours. We have a few things that we have that are able to be done during closing. So let's jump into number 9, which is your closing process. Now, in the offer, I have put a few clauses to protect you. So number 1 is that the seller warrants that all appliances are going to be in good working order when you move in. So that's your fridge, your oven, your dishwasher, your washer dryer. All of that stuff is in working order to the day that you move in. The other clause that I've put in are 2 buyer visits, maybe 3. 3 is even better. So we put these in is because we want to be able to make sure we get measurements for you to make sure that the furniture that you're bringing in is going to fit. If you need to buy new furniture, we've got measurements for that. And the most important is to check that these appliances are working. I make sure that we save one of those showings for the day before the actual closing date. I know you're like, why? I'm going to move in tomorrow. But the issue is, let's say we go into the house, I check the dishwasher and the dishwasher's not working. Let's say you moved into the home and you didn't check the dishwasher. Now, 3 days later, you decide to run a load and it's not working. It is very difficult for you to now go back to the seller and be like, hey, my dishwasher's not working. So it's better for us to check it the day before the actual closing date. Let's say I find out it's not working. I'm going to contact the lawyer and say, hey, the dishwasher's not working. I want to hold off closing for 2 days for the seller to go ahead and fix it, because in the clause, we stated that they're going to warrant that these items are working to the day that they move out. We just found out that one of them is not. So that's the way that I protect you, so that you don't have to cough up some extra money for no reason or have to deal with lawyers to try to get all of this sorted out. I'd rather sort it out right before we even move in, so you don't have anything to worry about. Also, 2 weeks before closing, your lawyer is going to do a title search. The title search is to check if there are any liens or encumbrances happening on this unit. Those liens and encumbrances are double checked 2 weeks before, because we want to make sure there's no issues. You don't want to move into a property and now owe $10,000 because you took on a lien that wasn't even noticed or even realized. The lawyer does all of that and protects you through that process, and they will contact you if there's anything that has been found that's worrisome. So the lawyer will guide you through that entire process, so you don't even have to worry about it. And then point number 10, my favorite part of this process, maybe even more than the shopping. Celebrate! That property is now yours. You are getting keys. You own it. You are now a homeowner, and you're going to gain some equity, because that property is going to gain equity for sure. I am so excited for you. You just bought your first property or your second or third property, but that property is now yours. You can go celebrate, go out for dinner, maybe even cook your first meal at home. So exciting. All right, guys, thank you so much for sticking around, watching this entire video. If you have any questions at all, throw them in the comments. I'm going to try to make a video every single week to give you guys information about real estate. And please subscribe or follow along just so that you get all the information and know when all my videos come out. Thanks for following. We'll see you guys next week.